In this video, we're going to talk about the Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin testifying before Congress on the next stimulus package. Now, we're going to break down some of the video, watch some of the clips to really see what's at stake for the next stimulus package and why we don't already have the next stimulus package. Now, this is your update for the next stimulus package for September the 2nd. But before we get into it, if this is your first time at our channel or you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button at the bottom. My name is Travis Sickles, certified financial planner, helping you reach your financial goals. So yesterday, September the 1st, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin testified before Congress. And this is important because we're getting some insight as to what's at stake for the next stimulus package, but more importantly, why they're not reaching an agreement. So let's start with a clip from Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin on what they want to put into the next stimulus package.
Schools, testing, vaccines, PPP for small businesses, continued enhanced unemployment benefits, child care, nutrition, agriculture, and the U.S. Postal Service, along with liability protection for universities, schools, and business.
And there were 2 points that Mnuchin left out there. One was the state and local funding,
which is so essential,
which was high on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's list of things that need to be funded. And number 2 were the stimulus checks. So he later goes on to say that, quote, Chief of Staff Meadows and I put on the table some more money for state and local funding. So it's not that they don't want to do state and local funding. They just don't want to do it at the same level as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Now, with the stimulus checks, he also went later on and spoke about the stimulus checks and unemployment. He said, we would like to extend enhanced unemployment and send out economic impact payments, which are the stimulus checks. So that just leaves the state and local funding as the focal point of why the next stimulus package hasn't moved forward yet. It's because of state and local funding, and that's what House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been laser focused on. Almost every time she's talking about the stimulus package, she's going to heroes, 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 teachers, 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 police and fire department funding, just to get additional funding for state and local governments.
They won't do state and local government, which is so essential to our heroes, hence called the HEROES Act, for healthcare and first responders and sanitation, transportation, teachers.
So it must be that the state and local governments really do need additional funding. But here's what Congressman Jim Jordan had to say about the state and local funding.
Finally, you directed $150 billion straight to the states and localities. By July, Treasury had obligated all of this money, but much of it still remains unspent by the states. New York State has only spent 53%, but Governor Cuomo asks for more. Michigan has only spent 8%, but Governor Whitmer asks for more. Speaker continues to say states don't have the money, but they do.
All right, so my first reaction to that is we have New York that's only used 53% and Michigan that's only used 8%. They must just be focusing in on the states that have additional funds available to them and not really talking about the states that really do need help. But Mnuchin later clarifies this.
They all have money left, and they also have access to a Federal Reserve facility if they can't borrow in the markets.
So if every state has additional funding and they have access to additional capital, why is House Speaker Nancy Pelosi so focused on getting additional funding for state and local governments? But when it comes to the small businesses and the PPP program, they made a big deal about businesses applying for the PPP program and being able to get access to capital elsewhere. But yet when it comes to the state and local governments, they have the money and they can get additional capital. So why do they need additional funding from a relief package? And in making sure that the money went to the correct places with the PPP program, the EIDL grants, the EIDL loans, and the stimulus checks that went to the deceased, they followed up with Mnuchin saying that every single loan that's $2 million and greater will go through an individual audit. All the rest of the loans are subject to the audit. And going over to the unemployment, Mnuchin made it clear that they want additional funding for enhanced unemployment benefits. And that's because the executive order that was signed by President Trump on August the 8th is just a band-aid. It's not going to fix the enhanced unemployment. They still need to negotiate to get additional funding. And it's really unclear exactly how long that FEMA money will last. Because in our previous video, I did some quick math on what the Department of Labor released as far as unemployment. But Congressman Clyburn said there were 48 million people on unemployment, while Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said there were closer to 16 million. Now, it was unclear if he said 16 million or 14.5 million. He did use both numbers, saying that they were both unemployed, so it's really unclear exactly how many people are unemployed. But according to the Department of Labor, it's somewhere around 27 million. So it's really unclear exactly how many people are on unemployment, which is important because that's how you can figure out how long the executive order money will last from FEMA. That's the $44 billion fund from FEMA that President Trump signed on August the 8th for additional unemployment. That's the $300 or $400 checks. And with the negotiations, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin was asked very directly, will you be willing to negotiate with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi? And his response?
I would publicly say I am willing to sit down at the negotiating table with the Speaker with no conditions whatsoever, anytime, other than I think the chair expects me here for a bit longer, but maybe even he would concede if the Speaker wanted to interrupt us to negotiate right now.
So maybe we'll see some more stimulus package negotiations before the Senate returns next Tuesday, September the 8th. And the last major point of confusion, and this is a big one, was the payroll tax cuts, because it was thought that the payroll tax cuts were meant to attack Social Security and defund Social Security, which is really not true, because even if it gets forgiven, they still have plans to replace it with the general fund. So it was never taking the money from Social Security. It was only trying to get money back into employees' hands. And the reason that a lot of people think this is because of questions like this.
Basically defunding Social Security or Social Security funds to pay for it. Is this your plan? Is that what you're proposing?
No, that's completely inaccurate, okay? This is a deferral, so it will be paid back. And if we pass legislation, then in the legislation, this would come out of the general fund and make Social Security 100% whole. We have no intention of having this cost 1 penny out of the Social Security Trust Fund.
And that confusion originated because President Trump said that he was going to eliminate the payroll taxes, but he wasn't referring to every payroll tax moving forward. He was only talking about the deferral portion, which would be replaced by the general tax fund if it's forgiven. So in no situation was Social Security not going to be funded. But clearly that wasn't heard by everybody, even after they clarified it. So after listening to Mnuchin testify, it's clear that they agree on more than we thought previously, but they still don't have negotiations done, and we don't have our next stimulus package just yet. So hopefully they'll start those negotiations back up, and when the Senate returns on September the 8th, next Tuesday, we'll be able to move forward with a stimulus package and a next stimulus check. And that is your update for the next stimulus package for September the 2nd. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.